DC here. Hi, guys and gals. Well, it's gonna be coffee vlog. Actually, it's gonna be Spooky University number 67. So I'm at least one behind. Yeah, it's 67. So that would be 1 week behind. The topic was how do we express ourselves without fear? Now, and the questions to ponder were what are ways that we've expressed ourselves without fear? Have How did you learn from expressing yourself? What advice would you give to someone who wants to express themselves but is afraid to? Any other thoughts on this topic? Well, let's see how we go about it. Anyway, I'll just start off. Now, when I was younger, and I mean younger by that I'm talking about already in grade school. So in grade school, I was actually in the beginning quite shy, quite timid. Uh, when I first started in grade one, I didn't speak French all that well, and I was in a French-speaking class, and maybe that was why. I don't know. And quite quickly, I was quite good in school, um, not great in sports, and the bullying started, put it that way. I did find that one way, though, of getting around all of those things or problems, looks like some other camera has decided it's going to give a better lighting. One thing I got around about all those things was, I could almost say with wit, humor. Now, does that have to do with speaking without fear? Well, it does in a way, because whenever I would see something, or quickly, that something could be turned into a funny statement, I would blurt it out. Okay. So that made actually that slowly I was getting out of my shell. It was a way also of expressing and conquering fear. Uh, but I would say there's a particular way of conquering fear. And not everybody can have that. It really depends on the person. Just gonna pull out, I have a glass of water with me as well. Now, later on in life, this might be, I was going to say, it might be a family trait to be overall, I mean, to be outspoken. I mean, not that my mom is outspoken. She isn't actually. She says her mind, yeah. But my dad tends to be a little bit too much outspoken, and he would tend to maybe say things, shoot from the hip, I would say. And we probably learned to do the same. Now, for a long, long time, I didn't realize that that is not always very appreciated. Now, there's a difference. I think there's a difference between if you have something and you want to bring it out and talk about it. So bring out a subject without fear to discuss it. And there's another thing of saying, wait a minute, that's not right, or just blurting out without probably thinking ahead of what you're saying. And I did have a tendency to do that, and I might still have it slightly, but nevertheless, I've certainly toned back on that. I've learned to turn my tongue around more and more. I'm far from perfect. Far, far, far from perfect. But I do think that to say what you think uh, in the right situation and in the right moment is something that's very important. To just blurt it out what you think without any fear of what the other person will think of you is probably not a good thing. Because one thing that it creates in people, first off, is resentment. I agree, but it might be resentment anyway if you're going to go into a confrontation thing. But it's not that. At one point, if you show somebody up, it comes out like bragging. It can come out like bragging, and it can also come out like, hey, it's not all about you, you know. And so that is one thing that when one of the questions, I'm kind of putting everything into a melting pot. is not a question of not saying what you think, but a question of doing it, what I would almost say, intelligently and reflectively. And that is probably one of the main things that I have learned in my life, in a way. Now, another thing that it seems very strange is to almost go through things in your head. How do you want to say things? I mean, I know when you're on one-on-one, we're not talking about a debate here. We're talking about a discussion where you've had time to think things over. A debate, a debate is already quite different. I mean, you've got to be fast, and that's already something very different. But the topic is like, what was it again? Express yourself without fear. Now, one could think when you see that title that expressing yourself without fear has to do with public speaking. There's a part of this, actually. Sometimes you have to stand your own in a group. In today's world and on social media, expressing yourself without fear is very much marred, and I was going to say political correctness going against the group. I mean, I probably have a lot of problems living in California, I suppose, because I'm rather conservative, and everybody in California seems to be very liberal. And there is a tendency in certain sides of society to, if you're not on their side, you're just an idiot, or you're less intelligent. So I've often gone through that. I mean, if you're in a minority, you will often end up being the person who's probably the so-called less intelligent one. It could be, for example, being a minority. I'm a Christian, working in science. I had a long discussion with, it was last February, with the people from Ireland, because we were saying, well, most scientists, or very many scientists, are skeptics. Strangely enough, though, they're very often believers of something. The only thing is that very often when you stop believing in, I was going to say, there's an old saying that says when you stop believing in God, it's not that you don't believe in nothing. You start believing in anything. Okay, I know you'll probably rip me to shreds on that one. It's not the idea, but the fact is that when you're in science, you have to look at things, but very, very often people think that scientists are very rigorous, and they are. But scientists usually have a very strict hypothesis in their head that they're trying to prove. And very often when they see things that disprove it, they have I was almost saying selective judgment at times. You have to be very careful about that. The scientific method doesn't agree on that, but we tend to do that. We will look at the stats, for example, the statistics of something, and work around it. And all that to say is that very often, if you're in a medium where everybody is against you, it's very daunting to bring your opinion, especially if it's countercurrent. Now, that can be in religion, that can be in politics, that can be in a lot of things. In today's world, where everything is very polarized, it's funny in a way, because a few years back, I was going to say with postmodernism, it was like, I'll believe what I want, you believe what you want, and everybody's okay. There's as many truths as you want. I don't believe that, actually. I'm sorry. For me, there can only be one truth. I'm Aristotelian, and if I was in India, where they have another way of looking at things, where they say there's many ways of looking at something, if a bus is coming, if I look the other way, it'll still shoot me. It won't let me go. But anyway, again, another discussion. But having said that, in the postmodern world, there was ways, it was somehow almost everybody could have their own opinions. We kind of respected people. Or we would say, well, okay, that's your way of thinking, and I don't agree, but okay. In today's world, where people are supposed to be very tolerant, I found actually on both camps of the conservative liberal debates is that if you're not thinking the same as me, something's not right. So tolerance or respect, actually. I've often said the big difference between tolerating something and respecting. I mean, I will not tolerate uh, if something is really wrong or if somebody is bad or something that you can't tolerate that. You can respect eventually a person for themselves or for their beliefs. There might be a different, and even there, you get what I think you can see where I'm getting at. There's fine lines between those two. You can respect a person for their being a human, and sometimes you wonder, is that all part of the same topic? You know, in a way it is, because facing fear is something that very much it comes into stick and stones don't break my bones, words don't hurt me. It's part of that. It really is. It's part of this whole thing of standing up. Work environment and mobbing, or the work environment is a very, very hard place. I mean, siding with the boss when you know that the person is wrong and is going the wrong way, you might lose your job. Can you afford to do that? Well, sometimes sometimes you do have to stand up. Other times, basically, you shut up. That is not easy. So it's really, it depends on a lot of situations. And to say that I can always stand up and say my mind without any fear, no, I'm still not there yet on every topic. No, I'm not. Okay, I've touched quite a few things, and I'll be happy to see how you will react and answer to those, bring your own comments or whatever. And that was me, Spooky University 67. Thank you, Claire, for another really, really, I was going to say stimulating topic. Take care. Bye-bye. DC signing off. Bye.